Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. So this episode, I am linking to an episode I just recorded on planning. So the episode that I just recorded is called Plan for Success. And if you haven't listened to that already, it's probably a good one to listen to. It should only be about 20 minutes. You can even speed me up a little bit, but you'll hear me go into, when you're planning for success, a really big part of it is products and pricing. Because if you have a goal to hit, say, 100,000 in revenue in a certain amount of months, then we need to know how many clients, paying you how much annually, paying you how much weekly, and that, my friends, leads to products and pricing. So in this episode, I want to give you some more help by diving into products and pricing. Now, I've done quite a few episodes on pricing, so you can go back and listen to those. Right now, I want to dive deeper and give you some detail on some more information there. Now, this has a potential to double your net profit, okay, and free up a lot of time as well. It's an area that bookkeepers make a lot of mistakes around. So let's jump into the episode now so I can help you. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice six-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, my friends, let's jump in. Now, at the beginning of this podcast, I'd like to make a little announcement. Well, in my world, it's a big announcement. Hopefully in your world, it's a big announcement. If you are listening to my podcast regularly, if you're using my book, if you are using me and my content to help you thrive in practice, I want to let you know that I am currently writing another book for bookkeepers. And the reason that I am telling you that, or announcing that on this podcast, without even telling my team. So my big boss, Pedra, has no idea that I'm announcing this. I haven't even told her that the last week I've been committing to write at least 1,000 words a day on my new book. So she will have a good chuckle when she hears this. The reason I'm telling you is because what I'm sharing today around products and pricing, I'm referring to the chapter that I've just drafted on products and pricing from my new book. I am going to try very hard to get this book out by Christmas 2024, because I would love as many bookkeepers as possible to be able to get it before the end of the year so they can read it in conjunction with my first book. So this second book is absolutely, like, think of it two-part series. So I want you to read the first book, so The Strategic Bookkeeper, my secret sauce recipe for how to build a thriving practice by becoming a strategic bookkeeper. And then this second book, we're going to go beyond those pages to help you even more. Okay, so I'd love bookkeepers to be able to read this over the Christmas period so that at the beginning of 2025, they're starting that year with more education, with more strategies on what they can use and do in order to move forward and thrive in practice. So now let me connect to products and pricing and how I'm going to help you to do better in business, to do better in your bookkeeping practice, with what I'm going to share, and also link it to planning. So in the last episode, you will have heard me give you information around how to set that top line goal, okay? And the example I used was a bookkeeper at the start of her journey, solopreneur. But if you're in practice, you've been in practice for years and years and years, you're a smart bookkeeper, you can adapt that to where you're at, okay? Now, to explain the power of products and pricing for a bookkeeper who's in practice compared to the example I gave in the last episode of someone at the beginning of their journey, ready to get started and set that first goal. So one of the members of our transformation program I'll call her Sandy. Okay. So when she joined the program, and she joined in August 2023. So she's been in a year, and she's just joined our graduate club. So most of the members who join are coming through to graduate club for year 2, which really speaks to the impact of the program. Okay. So with Sandy, so she came in and she was a bookkeeper in practice, but she'd actually also taken over a bookkeeping practice. So she bought a bookkeeping practice, and she was busy. And as Sandy lives in Australia, she was on the Gold Coast, and we actually got the opportunity to catch up really early on, which was really, really nice. So Sandy's come in, she's got this bookkeeping practice, and I kind of looked at the overall practice, and I did think, I think the pricing system is broken, very broken. I don't see how this is going to translate into profit. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. So if we connect this to the last podcast, and something that I really hope that I hammer home here, okay, and that is that there is a very big difference between building a busy bookkeeping practice and building a thriving, profitable practice, okay? That is one that gives you the joy, because too often I meet bookkeepers who have these really busy bookkeeping practices. And I'm remembering one of the bookkeepers who joined my program. We spoke on the phone about a year ago, and she said, Jeannie, I'm so busy and I hate what I do, because being busy is not the same as being successful or thriving. Okay, so back to the story of Sandy. So then pretty quickly, Sandy told me what I suspected, and she said, Jeannie, I've had a look at the clients and the staff and the profit and loss and everything else, and I just can't make money. I just can't make a profit. Okay, so this example is great because it's totally different to the example I gave in the last podcast of the solopreneur. Okay, because when you are many years in practice with clients, with staff, the wheels are spinning. And what you have to do is you have to actually do the work involved to fix that bookkeeping practice. Okay, so with products and pricing and Sandy, it was reasonably simple. Simple doesn't mean easy. Okay, a lot of what we need to do, if we understand the strategy and we can learn the strategy, well, then in that way, it's simple. Like, okay, Jeannie's given me exactly what I need to do, the 5% activity that will move the needle 95%. But just because it's simple doesn't make it easy. And I love what Sandy did in this case. She went on a journey of 12 months to actually do the work required with a busy bookkeeping practice, and the wheels are spinning, and there's clients and there's staff. Yeah, it's going to take time to fix what is broken. So what we did is we jumped in like a hot seat coaching, where Sandy and I would get together, everybody else in the program in the room, in the Zoom room, while I basically created a plan live with Sandy. And of course, it benefits everyone else, and it did benefit everyone else, because most bookkeepers have issues around pricing. Okay. So what we did that is very relevant to the last podcast, and for you having a look at what's happening in your practice right now, whether you're at conceptual early on or whether you're in practice, but exactly what's happening for you, so you can do a bit of a now future analysis, which is very linked to the last podcast and planning. Because if you're in practice and the wheels are spinning and it's just not all working for you, no matter what's working, what's broken, you need to do a now future. So what's going on right now, like for Sandy? So what we did, and this is what you need to do around products, pricing and planning, is you need to look at how many clients do I have right now? And I got Sandy to do this. Put it all in a spreadsheet. What are those clients paying me? And then really understand the profitability. So my team, so that is what the client's paying. That is the cost of sales. This is the profit that's coming out. Now, inside my program, for example, and this is exactly what you need to do in my program or not, we show you how to get 66% or more gross profit with team. Okay, so that's looking at your revenue minus what your staff and the software costs. You should be able to get a minimum of 66% gross profit, and we use a traffic light system. Okay, so all of this is given to our bookkeepers inside the program, and it's what Joe and I have used in or developed in my practice as well. So we have a traffic light system. Green is 66% or above. Orange, they've dropped below 66%, and then red, it's gone further down because the orange is take action. Okay, so traffic light systems. So what you need to do, and what Sandy did, is put them in a spreadsheet. Okay, these are my clients. This is the revenue based on the hours that we're doing on the job. This is the broken down charge out rate, because when you are charging fixed price, which you need to be, okay, but you really need an outcome billing strategy combined with a lot of other things, which we'll try and dive into in a second, then Sandy could work out, okay, well, based on that, this is the charge out rate that we're doing at the moment. Yeah, so it's a calculator rate. And then we look at, okay, we know that, as I mentioned in the last podcast, in Australia, for example, we need to be charging out, as at today when I record this podcast, a minimum of $95 an hour. So when we make those calculations, yeah, if we're dropping below that $95 an hour right now, we know that the profit's not going to be there to sustain more than a job, okay? Now, stick with me, because just charging out $95 an hour will also not give you a profitable, thriving practice with joy. Okay, so let me be crystal clear on that. It's just a part of the equation. This is a lot like, are we on life support or not? So, quick podcast interruption. The doors to my transformation program are opening for one final time in 2024. This is your last chance to get in this year. To get all the details with zero obligation, head over to the strategicbookkeeper.global/waitlist. Add your name to the list to be the first in line for all the info and early access to exclusive bonuses. Do not miss out, my friends. I'll see you in there. So if all of our clients were $95 an hour or more, when we broke everything down to look at the practice profitability, I would say to you, you know what? You've got a pulse, you're breathing, everything's okay. But we don't want you to just have a pulse and be breathing. We want you to be healthy and happy and thriving and all of these things, okay? So stick with me as we break this down further. So when we did those calculations, Sandy's clients were paying, I think some of them were paying up to 40 or 50% less than they really needed to be. So we identified that pretty much 100% of her database, we needed to double their fees, okay? So you can do this work in your bookkeeping practice playbook that I explained in the last episode if you're a bookkeeper in practice, okay? When Sandy and I did this work, so what we identified is that if we did the work involved to take all of her clients and to reproductize and to walk them down a road where they actually paid what they needed to pay, okay, which is totally doable, okay, then we would pull, I think it was just shy of an extra $100,000 out of her bookkeeping practice. So she could increase her net profit, her take home pay by, it was 90 something thousand dollars with no increase in revenue. Okay, with her focus being, I mean, increases in revenue are going to come naturally. Okay, when you do a price increase, your revenue goes up. When you bring on a new client, your revenue goes up. But what I'm saying is irrelevant of revenue going up, we could increase her take home pay, her net profit by close to 100,000 just by working on products and pricing alone. And that's what this podcast is all about, okay? It's about using products and pricing to absolutely build that thriving practice, okay? So we made a plan and Sandy was like, okay, cool. We know exactly what we're doing. We can see everything visually. Now I just need to step by step execute that plan and do the work. And that's what she's done step by step over a year to get the results. Now, on the whole, the majority of Sandy's clients, they accepted the change to their product and pricing. it was probably, I'm thinking she probably had an 80-20. Okay. So 80% went on a journey with her to accept it, to accept the new products with the new pricing, and go on to allow her to continue to support her clients, to help them with their bookkeeping and beyond, to help them do better in business. Because that's what our clients want. Okay. The bookkeeping, as I'll always say, is like a long haul flight. The better in business is like the destination. It's Rome. We want the destination, not the long haul flight. And in my book and in everything I talk about, I teach you to sell the outcome, the benefit, the why. Yeah, start with why rather than the feature and the function and the what you do. Nobody buys what you do, they buy why you do it. Okay, but I'm digressing here. So a bit of an 80-20 rule. Okay, so she probably offboarded 20% of clients. She said that just didn't bother her at all. She was simply moving forward step by step, something that Sandy is really good at. She's really good at mindset. She is good at productivity, okay, and then she's brilliant at the mechanics as well. So just to break that down for a second, because this is actually all inside my new book too. So inside my new book, I go into mindset, productivity, and mechanics because it goes in that order. So to give you an example, Sandy, in terms of her mindset, she was ready to play the long game. So you can see she wasn't in a panic trying to fix everything in 2 seconds. The next thing is she really did lean into her success being inevitable. So once she came into my program and I gave her the keys to the kingdom, then she just kind of took a breath and she really set her intention that if she showed up and step by step implemented everything exactly as I gave it to her and didn't go rogue to try and do her own thing outside of the strategy, the system, and everything that we give her, because we have tested the heck out of it. I have done all the things, yeah, and I have discovered the things that work the best, and that's what I give you, and then the things that, everything has a value, but it's got a tiny little value, like a tiny little bang for buck, as I call it in my book. I want to give you the big bang for the smallest time and money buck. So she is really good at setting that mindset so that there's not really any failing, right? It's just, okay, I just need to keep going until I get to a point where I say, oh, look at that, it's done, okay? So before we move on, what can you learn by the example that I just gave you? Because I think the key takeaway I'd like you to take from that is, number one, open the My Business playbook that you're going to develop. Number two, look at your practice. So you have to take a dive into your practice. Spend a few hours. If you're a bookkeeper in practice like Sandy and you've got clients and you've got staff, then you're going to have to dive into your practice, do some spreadsheeting, and really look at the now so that you can make a plan for the future. So Sandy, for example, her now was she was charging out half what she should be. Her future is, I need to be charging out the right rates. Yeah. And then map the path to get there. So this next section is going to be mapping the path to get there. Okay. In this podcast, I'd like to give you the headlines on how to map the path to get there. And then in the next podcast, so this is turning into a bit of a series, I'll give you more detail. Here are the headlines that you'll find in the Bookkeeping Practice Blueprint that I've given you a copy of in the show notes of the last episode. My wonderful assistant drops a link in again, but it is in the last one, okay? So there are 3 parts to the products and pricing equation, okay? So they are, and I'm literally looking at the chapter of my book and it's on the blueprint as well. So number 1, smart, simple suite of products. My goodness, that little line. I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a second. So you want a smart, simple suite of products. Number 2, a robust pricing strategy. And number 3, incorporate advisory. And just to go on a little bit deeper on those headlines before I go and record another episode for you, So smart, simple suite of products. When bookkeepers join my program, because this is the example I want to give so that you can look at again your now future. So have you made this mistake? Because I made it at the beginning of my journey, and I can best speak to what I see with bookkeepers, and the best visibility I get is when they join my program. Okay. So smart, simple suite of products. When bookkeepers join my program, here's what they're doing. They are serving up services tailored to each client's needs. And that sounds logical, right? And that's what I did at the beginning of my journey. Somebody would come to me and say, I need help. And I'd say, what do you need? I feel like that is the most dangerous question you can start with. And I'll explain a bit more of that in another podcast. But ultimately, yes, I'd say, what do you need? They'd tell me what they needed. And I would give that to them with a fee attached. And that really is a recipe for a whole lot of productized services that are like a mishmash, and they're all tailored and bespoke. You don't need that. That is not what you want to need. As I said earlier, I've done it all. Yeah, I've done it. I've tested it. I've refined it. I've perfected it. And then I give you the final, beautiful, perfect strategy that you need to use. Okay. So rather than that, you need the smart, simple suite of products. And to give you a bit of a heads up on that, what we discovered is that 80% of our clients actually need the same thing. The second thing we discovered is that we need to separate what is real bookkeeping, that is double entry accounting technician work. We need to separate that from admin and accounts, because otherwise you're bundling it all into these tailored services. So 80% of what everyone needs is same. That is a beautiful, structured, true bookkeeping service, double entry accounting bookkeeping service. And then if they want admin or accounts, which are two totally separate things, and there is a chasm between what a technical bookkeeper does and what an accounts clerk does and an admin clerk. Okay. So if somebody says we want this or we want that, we actually have the conversation that that's actually admin, that's actually accounts, it's not bookkeeping, and that's okay. We can look at possibly providing that to you, but we want to educate you that that falls outside the scope of double entry accounting technician work into admin and accounts. So we'll scope that separately. Okay, so we always now scope admin and accounts separately. So everybody gets same beautiful bookkeeping package or DIY bookkeeper support, and then we add on the extra bits that they need. Okay, so we've got this incredible, beautiful, simple, smart suite of productized services that everyone fits into, and that saves us time and money, and oh my goodness, it does so many things. Now, a robust pricing strategy, as you probably will have noticed, is where you are doing outcome billing, you have minimum viable job charges, okay, and various other things, which we'll jump on with another episode. But the mistakes that bookkeepers are making is, one, they're charging hourly. If you're still doing that, that's a big problem. But if they're not doing that, another mistake is often charging 40 to 50% less than they need to be bare ass minimum profitable. They don't understand that they need minimum viable job charges in order to be profitable, and that they span from one-off jobs through to progress jobs, and the two are very different. Okay. And so what happens is they do a mishmash of quarterly work, monthly work. They base it all on hourly rather than understanding there's minimum viable job charges, and that leads to the problem as well. And then they don't have a system of advisory to offer up investigating the numbers on a monthly basis. And so they miss the opportunity there for themselves, the opportunity there for the clients, because once you add on those services, that is how you'll create a raving fan. That is how you'll turn a cost into investment. Okay. So that is the headlines on what you need to look at in terms of, like, if you're looking at now future, what are you doing right now in terms of products, pricing, and advisory? And based on what I just told you there, what do you need to do perfect, best strategy, best system? Yeah. And then how are you going to go from your now to future? Because how you're going to go from now to future is very different if you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 clients to I've got 20 clients or 30 clients and the wheels are really spinning. You can absolutely move from your now to your future if you're ready to play the long game and just go step by step. Okay, so I want to wrap this podcast now. I've given you lots of really useful information that you can use in conjunction with the last one, and I will do another podcast to dive a little deeper and to give you actual numbers to use in your bookkeeping practice as well. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So, what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.